There are at least 555 keyboard sonatas of Domenico Scarlatti. These pieces are as imaginative, technically demanding, and visionary as music written by any other composer. Scarlatti's unique innovations in composing for the keyboard and his use of Spanish elements radically changed the keyboard idiom. We can identify his music immediately. We call this the Scarlatti effect. As a young man, Scarlatti acquired an absolute mastery of composition from his authoritarian father, Alessandro, who was a renowned composer of operas and cantatas. In his 20s, Domenico gained a reputation as a fantastic keyboard virtuoso, equaling, and some say surpassing, the great George Frederick Handel in a legendary keyboard contest. However, Domenico began his professional life by following in his father's footsteps. He composed operas as well as sacred works. In his early 30s, Domenico was actually at the Vatican in Rome, where he composed Latin choral works using old-style counterpoint. We hear a reference to this older musical style at the beginning of many of his sonatas. For example, the sonata in B minor. This piece was included in Scarlatti's only published collection of keyboard sonatas he called Etudes. This is the music that brought him to international prominence. In the opening of the sonata in B minor, there is a typical Baroque gesture in imitative counterpoint. There is absolutely nothing distinctive or special about this music. It would be nearly impossible to guess the composer of this piece. But at the fourth bar, we suddenly hear something completely different. This is definitely not Baroque counterpoint. In fact, it sounds like Spanish guitar music. The music is built over a descending Phrygian bass line. The chords have been expanded by the technique of hand crossing. The distribution of the harmony over 3 octaves creates a completely new sound. These measures could only have been written by one composer in the 18th century, Domenico Scarlatti. In the next 4-measure phrase, the theme moves to the left hand, and the phrase ends with a descending scale that introduces a completely new idea. This is a signature Scarlatti effect that appears in many of his sonatas. We hear a sound pattern repeated several times. When the music breaks free of the repetitions, it is like a flower that opens and blossoms. We feel the emergence of Scarlatti's truly romantic persona. Listen to the sheer beauty of this music. We hear a beautiful sequence. Notice that in the closing of the first half of the sonata, the Scarlatti effect takes the form of a single line that gently descends through 3.5 octaves, exploring the color of the different registers of the keyboard. At the beginning of the development section, Scarlatti revisits the opening, but the music here rises to a new level of emotional intensity. Now the repeating sound pattern appears only 3 times, and the mode changes to minor. Scarlatti seems to be looking inward, unable to break free of the sad, obsessive thoughts. In the recapitulation, the repeated pattern we heard in the exposition returns, but now is also in the minor mode. The music is filled with heartbreaking sadness, like someone who has given up hope, or like a flower that will never bloom again. The lovely sequence we heard in the exposition now sounds nostalgic. The descent of the final scale is like darkness falling on one who is alone and abandoned. Let's look at another sonata from Scarlatti's first published work, the Etudes. At the beginning of this sonata in G minor, we seem to be hearing a stately Baroque procession. The dotted note rhythm suggests the French overture style. But listen to what happens at the end of the first half. In the last 4 measures, the left hand plays a rolled chord in the deep bass, D, G, A, D. Musically, this is a crush or suspension chord built from fourths. This astonishing Scarlatti sound effect completely changes the piece. We suddenly realize that the music we are hearing is actually a dirge. The strange drum beat is the somber accompaniment of a funeral procession. In this sonata in D minor, the crush chords are the visceral beat, the violent strum of the guitar that punctuates the fast, repeated notes. The music evokes the spirit and the sound of Spain and the savage dance energy we associate with flamenco. These sounds do not exist in the world of Bach and Handel. We are hearing effects that exist solely for the purpose of producing sound energy to evoke a physical response and a powerful emotion. In the musical sense, Scarlatti has left Italy as well as the Baroque era of counterpoint and courtly dances. In fact, Scarlatti physically left Italy, at least partly in order to free himself from his famous but overbearing father. In his mid-40s, Scarlatti moved to Spain and settled there permanently. He spent the rest of his life in the service of Maria Barbara, the Queen of Spain. In Spain, Domenico Scarlatti reinvented himself as a person and as a musician. He became Domingo Scarlatti, a Spanish composer. Scarlatti was the first great composer to incorporate Spanish elements into his brilliant and completely original keyboard sonatas. But these Spanish elements are only part of Scarlatti's radical evolution as a composer. In the following videos, we will explore the Scarlatti effect as it appears in many of his keyboard sonatas.